Today I'll be talking about rifle slings. The first sling type we're going to look at is the one-point sling, which is called one-point sling because it makes contact with rifle in only one point. So putting a one-point sling on is very easy. You put your head through this loop, put one arm through there, and you're good to go. It is on your body, and you still have the full range of motion with your hands to do whatever task you need to resolve. Attaching it to a rifle, I suggest to put it somewhere on the beginning of the buttstock. You don't want to put it at the end of the buttstock, because in that case it would be hanging really low, and that's not going to be a good time. So somewhere here, maybe depending on your weapon system, you can move it a bit up, but that really depends on the weapon and the sling itself. So the great thing about a one-point sling design is when I transition from my dominant shoulder to the other shoulder, it is that easy. I have the full range of motion here, as you can tell, and I'm not going to strangle myself transitioning from one shoulder to the other. Another great thing is I can just throw it on my back and there's nothing bothering me. I can bend down, do stuff on the floor, pick something up. It's not going to bother me at all. Another great thing is, since it's only connected by one point to the rifle, if your sling has a QD, which I recommend, is you can just remove it, your sling stays on your body, it's really back to action very fast. You just grab the rifle, there you go. So that's a nice thing. Also, not all of them have this, but this one has kind of this elastic part, which means, let's assume I'm wearing body armor and thick jacket below, it's really cold outside, and now I need to transition and it's kind of getting tight here. So this elastic part allows me to just push a bit, and as you can see I gain a few centimeters and it just bounces back, and it's always the perfect length basically. So what is the downside of a one-point sling? Why wouldn't you use a one-point sling all the time? The thing is, it really only works with short barrel rifles. So let's assume I just dropped my rifle, now I'm walking, I need my hands for something, and let me adjust the camera angle like this. I can walk and the barrel isn't hitting my legs. I can walk, no problem. So now let's assume the barrel will be a bit longer. It would just constantly bump into my shins, right? So it works great with short barrels, doesn't work with full-length barrels at all. So that's its kind of limitation of the one-point sling. That's why I only run it to small packages basically. So now let's look at two-point slings. So now we're going to look at the two-point sling. It's connected here on the buttstock and here on the handguard, 2 points. And how do you put the two-point sling on? Basically, just get the loop, put it over your head, and you could wear it like the one-point sling, but since you're using a full-length barrel, all the weight is on your neck here, and unless you're a really buff dude, your neck's gonna hurt at the end of the day. So what do? You just put one arm through it, and now all the weight is kind of on your back and on your shoulder, not on your neck anymore, and this is very comfy. So I would really suggest that you buy a two-point sling that has this mechanism here, so you can make it bigger, make the whole loop smaller, and if you can make it really small like this, it's flat on your body, really comfy. You have your hands to your disposal, and if there's action, you just pull this lever and you're back in business. You can translate your shoulders pretty easily. You will kind of strangle yourself if the loop isn't big enough, and in that case you'll have to remove your arm and then transition from shoulder to shoulder. So another nice thing with the two-point sling is you can kind of use it to stabilize yourself while shooting. So let's assume you have the rifle shoulder like this, and you can wrap your arm around the sling and you'll just gain one more point of connection to the rifle itself. So you can just do this and you'll get tension on here, and it will just help you A, hold the rifle steady without using your arm muscles that much, and 2, just be more steady, be more accurate on target. So that is a nice thing with the two-point sling that you don't have with the one-point sling. So coming back to this how do I walk, or how do I patrol with the rifle? Assuming you don't have this adjustment mechanism, you might have the problem that if you walk, you're gonna constantly bump into the barrel. This kind of works if I have it rather close to my body. I can walk without a problem. It's sitting fairly high up, so I can walk. No big deal. If it would be a bit longer, and this is what I'm telling you, it's dangling around, it's going to hit your knees, hit your chins. Not a good time at all. So what you could also do is just put one arm through it, get it on your back, and now it's hanging over my shoulder like this, and I can walk, I can jog, whatever, it's not going to bother me anymore. So this is a 2-point sling. Let's check out a 3-point sling. So last but maybe least, we're going to look at 3-point slings. So you have one connection point here, one here, and you have this belt that goes from point 1 to point 2, so technically 3 points. And this might be a bit of a special 3-point sling. How should I put it? Regular 3-point slings just suck. There's no other way to put it. This is my personal opinion, but I know that many people share it, so unless you have a really good use case or a reason why you want a 3-point sling, then I mean that's fine by me, but if you don't, just look for a 1 or a 2-point sling depending on the length of the rifle basically. So the thing is with this 3-point sling is changing shoulders is pretty doable, so I can translate. It's still a bit tight, but since I can just pull on here and it's pretty long, I can just change shoulders. So that's something very important to me, and that's why I use this 3-point sling system for a long time. The nice thing is if you want to kind of wear it close to your body, you can just make a 2-point sling out of it. And there you go, it's nice, snug on my body, I can climb and whatnot, this is fine. So if you ask the question, can't I do that the same thing with a 2-point sling that is length adjustable? The answer is yes, and that's exactly my point. Why the hell would you bother with a 3-point sling? Let me show you why just even this one that negates most of the problems is kind of a bad idea. If you have this hanging here, and let's assume you have an ambidextrous safety or a fire mode selector here, it will catch on stuff. Now this isn't a problem with the AK, but if I'm using the rail here, this thing actually caught the lever of the side rail and loosened it. And that was the point where I was like, yeah, never again. So this is just not worth it. My recommendation is if you have a long rifle, use a 2-point sling that is adjustable. If you have a short barrel rifle, use a 1-point sling. So just a general recommendation when it comes to slings is that they have a certain width. And obviously the high-speed, low-drag operators will count every gram, but this will weigh a bit more, right? And might look a bit more bulky, but this width will just cut into your body way less, will distribute the weight better. And especially if you have a heavy rifle, I recommend to get one that has a bit of a padding. It's just so way more comfy. I can highly recommend this. So yeah, don't buy the cheapest one unless it's from a respectable manufacturer, because there's nothing worse than when you really need it, your sling failing you, your rifle drops on the floor, you break your optic, you lose your rifle while in a firefight. That's going to be a real bad time. So invest into a decent sling. It is the connection. It's basically the most essential upgrade, even next to an optic, in my opinion, on a new rifle. So don't cheap out on the sling. Play around with attachment points, see what works best for you. Just hang your rifle around your body, see if you can pick up something on the floor. How do you put it? How do you have to position it? Does it work if you're wearing a t-shirt? Does it work if you're wearing your plate carrier? This is all the things you'll have to get used to and kind of see where the limitations are. So, as always, I hope you learned something, and stay safe.